Hello and welcome to Stupid for Fantasy Football. I'm Adam. This is Mark Jablon, also known as Jabber, and JJ Mays, also known as Facebook Lover. You can follow us live on Twitter at Stupid4Football. We're going to get right into this week's show with our first segment. We all know what our first segment is. It's where we complain and bitch about what happened this last weekend. Man. It's time for Who Screwed You? Or me.
Told that's going to be changed.
It's supposed to say Who Screwed You.
I was told it's going to
me.
Week 3.
Have we upset
We're getting
Corey?
there. Did Corey's niece make that?
Seriously.
And so then he's like, we
Looks
can't,
like it was cut
we
out
can't take it
and
down.
pasted on.
Right.
I'm going to start with Javid Best. Why did he screw me? Because I'm an idiot and I didn't start him. And I lost because, like I said, I'm an idiot and he sat on my best.
Who'd you start instead of him?
Brandon Jackson.
Sweet.
Brandon Jackson. Terrible. Who screwed you, JJ?
Who screwed me was once again CJ Spiller. And you would think I would have learned my lesson from last week and not start him, and I did not. I put him on my bench. However, I tied, which meant that I had to win on bench points, which consisted of a great trio of running backs with Justin Forsythe, CJ Spiller, and Beanie Wells. Needless to say, it came down to Monday night's game where I was 8 bench points down, Reggie Bush on one side, and I had Michael Crabtree. Did not go well. So, also, I would like to say that Mark, or Jabber's Niners, screwed me.
Yeah, well, you know what? I got to tell you, this is just a terrible, terrible week, okay? My favorite team is playing. It's Monday night. I'm down a lot of fantasy points. They're retiring Jerry Rice's number. I mean, everybody's there. Eddie D's there. Montana's there.
Huge.
They're playing the Saints. I've got Pierre Thomas. I've got Garrett Hartley. I got the Niners defense. I'm going up against Frank Gore. It couldn't go any worse, JJ. Either I'm rooting for my team to go 0-2, my fantasy team, or I'm rooting for the Niners to go 0-2. It's terrible. Either way, neither of us are making the playoffs.
Who did you root for? How did the game come down?
It came down to a field goal at the end of the game, and I actually walked out of the bar right before they kicked the field goal.
It was a disappointing loss.
That's what happened.
Your team played well, though.
They played all right.
Now, we're going to get into our next segment here where we talk about what we told you and what you should have listened to last week. Gentlemen, it's time for We Told You So. I love that violent intro. We told you so with 3 bullets.
Wait, I thought there was a different one. We said
Yeah, is there another one? I heard we got
another.
Wait, hold on, everybody. We got complaints last week about how violent it was.
From me.
From producer Mike. So this is what Corey came up with as a substitution. Check this out.
That is terrible. That hand is that index finger is the thickest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
the thickest index
and
finger
the little
I've ever
smiley
seen.
faces and the little goo-goo sounds. It's just
very
so
odd.
not
Very
football.
odd.
So next week we'll probably have a new one.
Stupid for stupid. All right.
We're gonna get off to Michael Vick. We said last week right here on this show he would be the Eagles starting quarterback. And we were right. We hope you listened to us. He outran that dog in that picture, by the way.
We told you so.
Yeah,
Yes.
We told you so big time on that one. He is now the official Eagles starter, and he's going to be a great play going forward. He's a borderline QB1, definitely a great backup. And Cobb, pretty much done.
Done for now. Interesting. Michael Vick versus Donovan McNabb. 2 weeks.
That'll be a good show.
That's going to be a great game to watch.
I got Darren McFadden. Darren McFadden, has he finally become the player that we advertised? Well, we told you to start him last week, and he delivered. I think he had 145 yards.
Yep.
Darren
Big
McFadden,
game.
Run DMC. He's there. He's ready.
Really, the only good thing about that Raiders team.
The only good thing about that Raiders team, Michael Bush has yet to prove himself because he hasn't been on the field. He may
And I'm glad that I
play
chose
week.
this year to give up on Darren McFadden.
Yeah, good for you.
Great move, JJ.
In my draft, I did not keep him this year, unlike last year.
Who do you want to talk about, JJ?
You know, there's a certain player that I'd like to mention who last week I mentioned he might be the rushing leader for the Green Bay Packers, and I think we have a great picture of him in action. John Kuhn!
Check out his workout
Yes! How does that not inspire confidence in you going forward?
He gained 33 yards and stole some kid's bike. Not
did.
that
He
impressive.
totally did.
Amon Green's jersey number.
Yes.
So that's interesting.
So he is someone who you should not pick up and not carry on your team, but we did tell you he might be the leading rusher.
He was, but it wasn't a good scenario either way.
No.
Next up, we've got. I'm going to go to Aaron Hernandez real quick because
Kudos
I
to
have
Adam.
been
Yes.
I have been pimping this guy out since before the season started. Nobody knew who he was. 100 yards receiving. He's got Brady's confidence. That's huge. There he is, hugging his boy. You got to love this kid. I look at him like a young Tony Gonzalez. Now, is he an every week starter? That's questionable because of the way the Patriots distribute the ball. They're not big on tight ends yet, but when you got a talent like that, I think they'll find a way to get him the ball. Mark?
And now let's go to.
Yeah, I'm
I
loving
think
it.
Mark
We
should
got-
lead
we
it,
got
but
one
we
more.
both on this side of the table before said.
Said this guy, Mark Clayton. Mark Clayton, who is now officially, over the top, vindicated me for my 4th round choice of
Yes.
him 5 years ago in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
don't really know
He's
that.
looked really
But-
good, and
Look great.
Bradford looks to him first in the red zone, and that's big because
Right.
they're going to be throwing a lot in the fourth quarter. They're going to be looking for those late touchdowns. He's going to get some good fourth quarter garbage time touchdowns.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
May not get 100 yards every week, but he is definitely the man down there in the red
Yeah,
zone.
and there's
catching
not anybody
touchdowns.
else who's gonna I don't see anybody else on the team being like, oh well, Mark Clayton was forgotten, and instead this guy has got 150. There's nobody else.
Right.
It's Mark Clayton.
Right.
There's one more guy we're going to mention really quick because Marty's not with us. I'm going to mention Peyton Hillis, who he
He's
loves.
living.
Peyton Hillis,
here
by
yet.
the way, is just like Kuhn in the way that they're both very poor Allstott impersonators. They're not as good as Mike Allstott was. I don't think they're going to be, but they're on teams that are hurting a running back, and they're going to get the red zone carries. So they're going to get you a touchdown every once in a while. If you're hurting, or if you've got Harrison, you got to pick up Hillis if he's still available. So
I guess we have to kind of give Marty some major props.
speaking
on
of
that.
Marty,
We should give a shout out.
how are we going to
Should
do
we
this?
give a shout out? Is it a
Marty?
shout out or just some props?
Well, you do what you want to do. I'm shouting
Fine.
out.
I'm giving him props.
All right, good. Hi,
One
Marty.
prop.
Speaking of Marty, he is our news guy, and he is out of town this week. He had to go to the new Jets-Giants stadium. Poor guy. So for
some
fantasy
mediocre
news this
football.
week, I thought I'd throw it to one of you guys. Mark, you take the news. JJ, you post something on Facebook.
Fabulous.
All right, good.
Fabulous. Big news. Big news, ladies and gentlemen.
I really like that.
Love it. I love it.
Strange.
I love it.
Yeah,
And what
tiebreaker.
better way to start out the big news with our guy Vincent Jackson in San Diego. Does not get traded. We may not even see this guy play this entire season, boys.
No, I think the writing's on the wall at this point. That San Diego was asking so much for him that they could not. They could not trade him. Nobody wanted to pay. I think it was a 2nd and a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, well, the other thing too is his agent said he had deals in place with several teams, including, if you'll notice, I'm the only person not showing team pride this week, and that's because I'm a Vikings fan, and I don't have a lot of team pride this week.
Your
And
team,
we were
JJ's
the
team pride
team-
is behind
yeah,
Adam,
behind
actually.
it, yes.
That's
By the way,
last of it.
only team up here
Behind
that's
Adam.
2-0.
Behind
the
him.
Dolphins, ladies
Let's
and
not
gentlemen.
even-
That's
let's not
right.
even-
That's
We're
right.
not talking about that, however. What we are talking about Vincent Jackson, and it looked like the Vikings were the one team that was really going after him. And now that he's got to serve the extra suspension, can't play till week 7 or 8, which is when they say Sidney Rice will be back. I don't think anybody's going to trade for him. His agent today was calling him Lord of No Rings.
Right.
The GM
the
for
GM of San Diego, yeah.
He's not. I don't think he's going to play at all
No.
this year.
Yeah,
He's
here,
gonna
here are
sit.
the implications for Vincent Jackson. He'll drop some spots next year because he probably won't play this year.
Yeah.
So he will probably, most likely, be a great steal. He'll get a lot of buzz in training camp because he'll be with a different team,
Yeah.
I assume. But Vincent Jackson's a good guy for next
But
year.
if he's on your roster now and you need a spot, I think you can cut him.
I would say this. I'd say he's so talented. He's worth hanging on to for a couple more weeks. If you gotta drop him to pick somebody up, go ahead. But he still might play. I doubt it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking maybe a 10% chance.
But if you got that small roster and you've got one player you got to drop, to pick somebody up, I think you can feel much safer dropping him now than you could have before. You're like, oh, what if he comes back in week 6 and burns me and it's the worst drop I made all season and somebody else wins the champion?
Yeah.
I think you can get over those worries.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I hear you.
Yeah.
And I hear you. Next story, Michael Vick. I mean, how much more can you say about this guy? He's back. He's the starter, just like we said last week. And Vick has looked really good so far. And I think he's going to be, guys, I think we all agree, he's going to be a very reliable starter going forward.
I think so. I think definitely. And it seemed like the Eagles' offense was clicking a lot better with Michael Vick. Deshaun Jackson did a lot better. LaShawn McCoy came out of nowhere because Vick,
LaShawn
you
McCoy.
can't put 8 in the box against Vick because he'll run around the end and get a touchdown. So that opened it up for LaShawn McCoy. This team is better with Michael Vick at quarterback.
I think you're going to see fantasy numbers up all around on that team. You know,
Yeah.
he opens the offense up.
I agree. And I have to say, I was a little bit concerned about Deshaun Jackson's deep threat last week, but Vic proved it wrong.
Yeah.
45-yard touchdown, right?
He's got a great arm.
He's got a great arm.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
All right. Next story. Oh boy, this is a little hard to swallow for a lot of people. Is Ryan Matthews a bust?
Looks like it.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh, this guy has now no yardage. Now
Very
he's
low.
hurt.
Yeah.
Very low. I mean, and who's backing him up and who's going to start this week, Adam?
It's going to be Mike Tolbert. Mike Tolbert's going to be the starting running back, but Sproles will get a lot more carries. It's going to be Mike Tolbert on 1 and 2. It's going to be Sproles in any kind of passing situation and on third down. You pick up Tolbert, of course. We'll talk about that later. But this is really disappointing. People were drafting Ryan Matthews in the first round. I mean, they were drafting him before Cedric Benson. You know, they were drafting him before a lot of guys who are much better. It's another statement about you got to be careful taking those rookies because they can look great in the preseason. You never know.
So what you're saying is someone, say, drafted C.J. Spiller in the first round of their draft,
Yeah,
that may not be a good call.
Yeah.
Well, you know, here's the thing, too. In the NFL, players, and I was going to talk a little bit about this later with another guy, but players they're in good situations where they don't have to sit behind better players. You know, and in the NFL, it's what have you done for me lately? How are we going to win now? So guys like a Spiller are behind a Marshawn Lynch. I think most people assume that Ryan Matthews had no obstacles in his way to developing into that premier back, which he could have done in week 3 or week 4. But right now, he's a little dinged up. There's a guy who's playing well. Such is the way of life.
And you know, another fantasy trap that a lot of players fall into is you listen to the coaches. And Turner was talking about this guy's going to get 200 carries and 40 passes this year. Great. That sounds great. It's a great idea, but it's the coach talking about his own team. So you really can't go with that.
But the question,
coaches.
I think the big question is now, is he worth a roster spot on your fantasy squad? He's
Yeah.
obviously doing nothing next week. He's probably doing nothing the week after. Is he worth keeping on your bench?
Well,
I think so.
it depends on your depth, JJ, but I agree. It's a question you got to ask, but I think it ultimately depends on the kind of depth you have at each position. In my case, I could not keep Ryan Matthews because I have guys platooning all over the place. I've got Sean Green, and I've got Michael Bush, and I've got, who else? Pierre Thomas. So we'll see.
Well, he's not so much of a platoon
He's
anymore.
not-
We'll get to that
right,
later.
We'll get to that later.
But I will say this about Matthews. Matthews, if you don't want him anymore, trade him. Somebody will give you something for him. I mean, trade him for a second wide receiver, a third wide receiver, maybe a tight end. Somebody will give you something for him because they'll still believe that preseason hype. I'm not saying he won't eventually accomplish it, but first of all, he's injured. We'll get to that. And second of all, it looks like he's not getting it done.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Last story of the day. I know a couple people wanted to avoid this one today, but I just have to mention Braylon Edwards. Braylon Edwards, you're killing me. You're killing me. I hope and pray that the Jets and the NFL right this wrong by not starting him this not starting him this week.
that means
by
starting him.
playing him this week. But let us say, right, assuming that something does happen to Braylon Edwards going forward, possible suspension by the Jets, by the NFL. This is going to increase the value of a couple other guys, fellas. Who are they?
Well, Crotchery, number one.
Yeah.
That's going to increase his value right away. And then Holmes isn't back yet, but when he comes back,
But when he comes back,
He's gonna be
Antonio
huge.
Holmes
Yeah.
is, I
Yeah.
think, already going to be huge.
there's a good idea for your Matthews. You got Ryan Matthews? Find out who has Antonio Holmes. Trade for him right now. Get him
There
right
you go.
now.
Yeah.
There you go.
The other thing I want to say real quick is, and this is why the whole DUI thing in the NFL really ticks me off. Every team in the National Football League has a 24-hour driver that will pick up any player from anywhere. There is never any reason for this to happen. It's not like if it happened to your buddy who you work with, still not good, but it's not like he has a private driver that can come pick him up at 4 in the morning. This is ridiculous. So, anyway.
You're right.
All right, we've covered the news. We've talked about how our teams failed us. What does that bring us to next, gentlemen? I think now we have to go and see the doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for The Doctor Is In. Hey, Ingrid, how you doing? Whoa. She got into some grunge metal. Ingrid, how are you?
Hi guys, good to see you again.
So our first injury this week is obviously the big story injury-wise, and that is Reggie Bush of the New Orleans Saints. He's got a broken fibula. They're saying out 6 weeks. What's wrong with his leg?
So Reggie Bush broke his fibula, and the fibula is one of the two bones in the calf, the other being the tibia. The fibula doesn't bear any weight directly, but it does help stabilize the leg. The tibia bears most of the weight of the calf. I wish that they had specified where he had broken his fibula, because it really, the extent of the injury really depends on where that fibular fracture is. So the fibula connects to the knee at the top of the fibula and to the ankle at the bottom of the fibula. So if he had injured any of those ligaments associated with the knee or the ankle, in addition to his fibula fracture, then that would be quite a serious injury. I'm guessing that since he's only predicted to be out for 6 weeks, he probably fractured a portion of the fibula, which is not associated with the knee or the ankle, which is a good sign. It's probably a non-displaced fracture, and that should heal within 6 weeks or less. Fibular fractures are also associated with tibial fractures very often, the common tib-fib fracture. So I think he was lucky in that he escaped a tib-fib fracture. So again, you know, the fibula being a bone that doesn't really bear much of the weight of the leg at all should heal quite nicely, and I think he should be back to playing within 6 weeks.
I felt pretty accurate on that injury. They're saying 6 weeks. It looked horrible at the time.
Yeah.
When they had to cart him off when he tried to walk on it. It looks like, all things considered, this is actually better news, because it looked for a second to me like he might be done for the season. 6 weeks, not so bad in this.
6 weeks, do you keep him on your bench for 6 weeks?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
definitely?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
In my league, he was dropped.
Really?
Yeah, in my
Pick him
major
up.
league, he was dropped.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about the Facebook league?
I don't know. Facebook is down today, so I can't tell.
Well, your Facebook was down.
Anyway.
I think Bush is definitely worth keeping. He's a solid spot player. He's a great flex player. He gets those in a PPR league. He's top 20 RB because of those catches.
And I think this especially benefits a guy like Pierre Thomas, because it's not as though Pierre Thomas wasn't catching passes last week.
True.
You know, if he was just running and Reggie Bush was the one catching all the balls, then you'd say when Reggie Bush leaves, well, Pierre Thomas is not necessarily going to become that guy. But Pierre Thomas sort of did become that guy last week. He had 8 catches for 57 yards, led the team in receiving, or in receptions. So this bodes very well for Pierre Thomas owners if that's going to be more a part of
I
their
think it
offense.
moves Pierre Thomas into really like one of the top 5 elite backs if he's
Could
picking
be.
up more slack.
Could be. The question is, does he get in the end zone, JJ, right? And that's
True.
You know, that's how you
Well,
really
and
become a elite
another
back.
question is, Sean Payton is one of those guys that doesn't want to have one running back. Even when all the rest of them are out of commission, he seems to find another guy. And we're going to talk about him in the next segment. But Chris Ivory looked great in preseason, and he's a very similar style to Reggie Bush. I think he might get those carries. Let's move on to our next injury. This is our first defensive player. We're gonna go with Darrelle Revis here. He's got an aggravated hamstring. They're saying out 1 to 2 weeks. Obviously, this guy's a shutdown corner. We need to know if he's playing. So, when can we expect him back?
So the hamstrings are a set of muscles in the back of the thigh responsible for flexing the knee. And per report, it says that he didn't tear or pull his hamstring. We won't really know what the extent of his injury is until we have an MRI, which he's probably already had. Hamstring injuries are typically graded from 1 to 3, 1 being the least severe, 3 being the most severe. So a grade 1 injury would be a minor little tear with some tightness in the muscle, as he describes he has. So he probably has a grade 1. 2 is a partial tear of more of the muscle fibers. It can cause things like a limp or gait disturbance. And then grade 3 hamstring tear is actually a complete rupture, a complete tear of the hamstring muscle, which doesn't allow you to bear weight. So I think that his injury is on the more benign spectrum of hamstring injuries. I think that he probably could be back to playing within 1 to 2 weeks if it is a grade 1 hamstring tear. And then, of course, potential complications of hamstring tears include repeat injury if he gets back on it too soon, and then permanent decrease in muscle strength, which hopefully he won't have. It sounds like it's a lesser grade of injury, so that I would expect him to be up and playing at full strength. But it all depends on what the MRI shows and what the grade of his injury is.
Again,
It's great.
it sounds like the NFL is pretty accurate. They're
Yeah.
saying 1 to 2 weeks. She's saying it might be 3, but that looks pretty accurate. It's good news for people facing the Jets. Even though Revis hasn't been great this year, he let Moss beat him on that great catch, that one-handed sick catch in the end zone.
Insane.
It's still, obviously, without him, people are going to get a lot more
I think it makes
passing
you a little more, it's not the Jets still have a really good defense, and you're still facing a good defense, but if you've got the number one wide receiver going against the Jets, I don't think you have a question in the next 2 weeks of, should I possibly look for a different option? I think now he is your option. It's,
And if you're in an IDP league, you definitely hold on to Darrelle Revis. It's only a couple of weeks. He'll be back. He'll be picking off passes. He may take a couple back for a touchdown, so he's poised for another great year. He's Darrelle Revis. He's the man.
Yeah.
All right, our next guy is a guy that we're probably going to be talking about all year. Percy Harvin. If it's not a headache, now it's a hip injury, and he's also got this headache issue. But we're going to address.
He's giving me a headache. He's giving me a headache.
I want to know.
You're killing me, Harvin.
They're so vague about this hip injury. I want to see if there's any way we can find out what it actually is. It just says hip injury.
Oh, you know what would be great? If he did like what he did with the migraines.
Yeah.
After the game is over and he re-injures it even more, then disclose the details of the injury.
And
that would
I
be really
think
cool
that's
for
the
all
way
us
to do
fantasy
it.
What's up
players,
with
wouldn't it?
Minnesota and hip injuries recently? It's ridiculous.
I'm going to say the dome.
Buy
the
hip
dome.
pads.
They say
sell
you
hip
carry a lot
pads.
of emotion in your hips.
Buy 'em.
Yes.
So maybe they're, I don't know, maybe they're just really emotional.
You do the yoga, they open up the hips to make
Yeah,
you
opening
feel
up the hips.
less
Here, I'll show
angry.
you. You do the whole thing where
No,
you
no,
kick
let's just go. Go.
All right,
it's
so,
really
so
simple.
No.
Ingrid, I'm sorry, these guys, they're chatty. What is wrong with his hip?
So Percy Harvin's hip injury, it's very nonspecific. We don't know whether it's a fracture, a muscle tear, a labral tear, but he describes it as a tight type of pain that grabs him before he can reach his top speed. So from what I can gather, it's probably some sort of muscular injury, perhaps a sprain, strain, maybe even a partial tear. He was hit by another player's helmet in the hip, so this was an acute injury. So I think it's probably more like a muscular injury, like I said, a sprain. As we've discussed earlier, these athletes can often suffer from labral tears from constant impaction on the hip. It doesn't sound like he has a labral tear of the hip joint, but I would expect him to be up and playing, I don't know, in one to 3 weeks perhaps, if it's just a minor muscular injury. But he is said to have an MRI on Monday, so it depends on what the MRI showed. But I think it's a safe bet to say that it was probably a muscular injury that should heal within 1 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Man,
Okay.
a pain that grabs him. That's what she said. It's a
pain that grabs. That was
it's
very
like
poetic.
like a bad breakup.
Yeah. Yeah, he's,
Terrible.
Speaking of breakups, does this mean now, is Brett Favre no longer a number one quarterback in your fantasy league?
oh yeah, he's
Sure,
not right
definitely
now.
not. And
Not right
Percy
now.
Harvin's going to sit on my bench, as is. I don't even think I'm going to field a starting lineup, actually.
Yeah.
Just out of spite,
Just
I'm going
give
to
up.
bench all these guys. Who? It's terrible. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and just a quick update. I just checked this right before we went live. Percy Harvin did practice today
Oh, thank God.
and is questionable for Sunday's game. He might start. Do have another option ready, though. We're going to move on to our last injury with the doctor. Ryan Matthews, running back. We talked about him earlier. He's got a high ankle sprain. How bad is a high ankle sprain?
High ankle sprains are injuries or tears to the ligaments connecting the fibula and the tibia near the ankle joint, just above the ankle joint. So it doesn't involve the ankle, but it's definitely between the two bones of the calf, just above the ankle. It's caused by an outward twisting of the lower leg and foot, and it's quite common injury. And depending on the severity, he could be out for as little as 2 to 3 weeks or as many as 6 months. 2 to 3 week injury would look like just a strained ligament. A 6-month injury would be actual tearing of these ligaments that connect the distal tibia and fibula. That would require surgery. We haven't heard that he needs any surgery yet, so I'm assuming that his injury is on the lighter side of the spectrum. So I would expect him, depending on the extent of his injury, to be up and playing within, say, 2 to 4 weeks.
All right, so 2 to 4 weeks.
Wow. Well, we talked about
yeah,
this.
we already- we
Whatever.
talked about
Ryan
that.
Matthews, sit down. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Try and
maybe.
trade him if you
He's
can.
not on my team. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Trade him to the guy who picked up Mike Tolbert. I always like doing that because if somebody got that guy and be like, hey, you want the starter and get somebody good from him.
Handcuffs
Yeah.
abound.
Yeah, trade.
Like Coon.
Ryan
Coon.
Matthews is our trade special of the week.
Well, enough about injuries.
Anyway, Dr. Berger.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Berger.
Dr. Berger.
Bye-bye and good luck.
Thank you, Doctor. We do have one last-minute injury here. It's not that impactful for fantasy football.
Is he ever?
Jake Delhomme has a high ankle sprain
Not
and will
worth,
not
not
play.
worth taking a doctor's time.
Not,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
worth taking our time.
Yeah.
Ingrid actually rejected it. She said, I won't talk about him.
I lost 6.
So Seneca Wallace is going to start in his place. Neither one of them fantasy relevant. So we'll move on. Mark,
12 seconds.
I believe you had something.
Off my life.
You
I do.
want
I had
those
some
back?
great news.
Yeah, go for it.
After injuries, I like to talk about some good news. The good news is I won a bet this week with my man Marty Lublin, who's not here right now. So I just get to talk about how amazing I am because Austin Collie, ladies and gentlemen, had more yards than Pierre Garçon and more fantasy points because it could flip.
Yeah.
But he had more yards and more fantasy points, and that just won me a 12-pack of PBR, which is good.
Because I would
why?
like to remind you of another bet that you've made with Marty.
I'm hedging my bets. I'm hedging my bets.
Yes, there are 2 players, Sean Green
Yes.
and
I do have a bet with
Steven
Marty.
Jackson. And if you'd like to know the full total after 2 weeks, you are
Yes,
now down
This is a
season-long
wide
bet. And Sean
Season-long
Green, in a monster first 2 games for the Jets, has racked up a total of 70 yards.
That does not tell the story. He is on the rise.
He's on the right. Steven
When
Jackson.
LT gets a high ankle sprain, and he's out 5 to 7 weeks, and I'm rooting for that.
Meanwhile, Steven
When you're
Jackson.
rooting for other people to get hurt, you got issues. All right.
Steven Jackson, not horrible, but respectable 156.
See, that's
or
not
more
that
than
much.
However,
He gets
it is
hurt,
more than
my guys.
double.
2 guys get hurt. I win a 12-pack
Right.
of PBR. I
So,
maybe win my league.
If Steven Jackson
I'm
gets
2 injuries
hurt,
away from a championship.
if Steven Jackson gets hurt 2 games later, you
and
will have caught
everybody
up to
else.
him.
Right, everybody's 2
Yeah,
injuries. Everybody
yeah,
is somebody
seriously.
else's 2 injuries away from a
All
championship.
right,
But I'm so primed.
Enough of winning beer.
All right.
We're going to go on to our next segment where we're going to tell you what to do about all these injury problems and news stories. It's time for On the Wire. All right, so we're having tablecloth issues. It's a common problem. This happens to Wolf Blitzer every night.
This
Okay.
studio is really pimped out. You should check out the commissary.
seriously,
It's
seriously,
amazing.
it is really incredible. There's some guys on the wire that can help you out. We talked about Chris Ivory earlier. He's still available in 92% of leagues. Last I read, he is expected to play this weekend. He's still listed as questionable, but Peyton was saying that he's going to get some carries. They're hurting at running back behind
No,
Pierre
they're
Thomas.
not.
Behind Pierre Thomas.
Thank you.
I don't think Liddell Betts is the answer. Chris Ivory is definitely worth a pickup. If you're a Bush owner, he's a must pick up. If you're a Thomas owner, he's a must pick up at least until Bush gets back.
Oh, I got a great nickname.
What?
Because now Liddell Betts, they only pick him up as a stopgap, so he's Liddell Hedge Your Bets.
Wow.
Oh,
He's Liddell Hedge Your Bets.
I am so sorry.
Liddell
ladies and
Hedge Your
gentlemen.
Bets. He could go. Oh, all right, fine. That's fine. I
right,
loved
moving
it.
on.
I
Chris,
loved it.
Chris Ivory, is not going to duplicate
His last
what
name's
Reggie Bush
Ivory.
is doing.
No, but he's going to get opportunity.
He's going to have the opportunity.
Whitby is that?
That's a big thing. When you're looking for guys to pick up, you pick up guys who are going to get opportunity because the truth is none of us know if they're going to be good or not until we see them play in a real game. But opportunity is what leads to things like Aaron Hernandez's week last week. I'm going to mention him a lot.
Of course you are. You love him.
I love that guy.
He's your gator bait.
It's true. It's true.
All right.
All right.
You're his gator bait.
The next guy on our list is Josh Freeman. I never thought we'd talk about this guy, but
Josh Freeman.
he is looking good.
Of course he is. He's looking good because he's throwing to my man Mike Williams, the
Yeah.
only Mike Williams that's worth talking about this year, who should be starting, by the way. If he's not starting
yeah.
by now, by week 3, he's fantastic. I mean, he showed the body control, the concentration, the focus.
Yeah.
He's got great hands. They're targeting him all over the place. Pick this guy up and play him, Mike Williams.
Yeah, and pick up his quarterback too. If you need a backup quarterback, or if you're hurting right now, if you're one of those guys who drafted Brett Favre, here's a great guy to pick up. He's got a lot of talent. He's still a little young and raw, but he's doing a great job so
Yeah,
far.
and
Absolutely,
Cadillac looks
absolutely.
like
He's delivering the
he's
ball.
actually running healthy this year.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ernest Graham's still there as a backup, so if something happens, this is a young, talented offensive team. So, yeah, he may not be a number 1 yet, but he's definitely moved up to like a number 2 quarterback.
Sure. Number 2. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely. Number 2.
All right, and
Oh, I'm excited about these guys, Adam.
by the way, he's still available in 87% of leagues. 87% of leagues, you can pick that guy up. All right, the next guy, obvious, Mike Tolbert. He is now the starter in San Diego. until the Ryan Matthews things get worked out. I don't know if it's so much his injury or the fact that he wasn't performing. Tolbert's going to be the starting running back.
It's amazing. I mean, it's like we should do a where the hell did he come from segment.
Yeah.
Because he's that guy.
He was the fullback.
He was, right.
Like a fullback.
But man, he ran hard in the red zone, and man, did he score, and he just did everything. He's a great addition to any team.
And available in 94% of leagues. I mean, almost every league you're in is going to have this guy. Now, if your waivers have already processed, I'm going to bet that he's gone.
Right.
Yeah. But he's a great pickup. If you need a running back, and especially if you drafted Ryan Matthews, you got to get this guy. Another running back who had an unbelievable fill-in for Mike Turner, Jason Snelling, out of nowhere.
I love it.
It's just incredible.
Like Max Schmeling and Matt Snell. You know, he's got that old school name.
Yeah.
He ran, I mean, he's in that Falcon Black. Man, this guy was awesome last week.
I think he passed up Norwood as the backup now.
Sure.
So he's now number 2 there.
Yeah, he's number 2, but I mean, Turner, they said he was healthy enough to play in the second half. He's still going to be a number 1 back, which means very limited opportunity for Snelling.
Right.
I don't think you get too excited about how great his week was, because he's not, like we just said, opportunity. He's not going to get that much because Turner appears to be perfectly
I agree,
healthy.
JJ, but he could be good trade bait if you've got a spot and you don't have to worry about, filling another roster spot, then pick him up. Stash him for a little bit.
Yeah, you can do far worse.
And on top of that, Turner's proven over the last couple of years that he's going to miss a game or two here and there by injury. He gets injured. The way he runs, he's very physical. He runs right into the big guys on D. He's going to sit out some time. Snelling's going to be the guy to replace him. Also, with that kind of performance, should Turner struggle, not that I expect that, but should he struggle, this is going to be the guy that's going to get those carries. So, all right, we're going to move on to, hey, guess who we're going to talk about again? Aaron Hernandez. Why is this guy still available in 93% of leagues? I've been telling you about him since before the season. This is ridiculous. I know everybody watches us.
Adam was emailing all of you about this.
Adam actually has
I was
tweeting.
Like I wasn't emailing.
And
Welcome to 2010.
Thank you notes.
And on his wall is a picture of that, except instead of Tom Brady's face is Adam's head.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I
photoshopped it in with scissors and some Scotch tape.
That.
Yeah. Yeah. I might have followed that. I'm not really sure.
I'm not sure either.
Do you guys have anybody you want to talk about that's out on the wire?
Just a brief mention, not the hugest of pickups, but if you're in a league that's very deep league, you have a lot of guys are taken, especially if you're in one of those 14-player leagues, you could do worse than a guy like Lewis Murphy.
Sure.
Who is not by any means, he's more of like a number 3 guy, but the fact is, in Oakland you've got McFadden and Murphy, and that seems to be it. Nobody else is catching the ball, nobody else is playing. It's just that guy, So if you need a wide receiver and you're in a very tight league, Lewis Murphy's available just about everywhere.
Also, his style of play goes right into what is it, Krakowski? What's the new guy? Krakowski. Don't they call him the Polish cannon or something like that? He's got some weird.
Yeah,
I love that if they do.
I think they do.
If not, they should.
I think they do. His style of play plays right into Murphy. Murphy is not the super deep threat. Darius Hayward-Bay was supposed to be that.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we have a guest too right now.
Oh yeah.
Marty's on the chat room.
Hey Marty.
Marty Lublin.
Oh, he's going to answer. See, you thought you were going to get away with all that.
Instant gratification.
Wow.
What's he got to say?
He got crushed by Garcon.
Yeah, crushed by God. Of course he did.
Yeah.
Crying on his keyboard.
And to add insult to injury, Garcon was targeted the pass before Colley's touchdown on the other side of the field. Peyton Manning threw to Garcon, incomplete. Next play, Austin Colley, touchdown, 12-back PBR.
Anything else from Marty? He's just heard from Garcon?
I think he's just crying right now.
We miss him so much.
Yeah, one catch,
so
11
much.
yards. That's all he has to say.
Not good.
He'll be rubbing a lot in my face this year. I guarantee it.
We can.
That sounded terrible.
We can help Marty with our new segment. Maybe he should give us a couple players to talk about in Smash, Stash, or Trash. Which will be up
You can't just bring it. You gotta give him time.
I did. I was like, in our next segment,
Marty,
go!
Sure you're
Smash, Stash, or Trash.
Kincaid!
There you go.
There you go.
Or not.
Or
Or
not.
not.
Okay. Well, believe us, it really is that segment.
The TriCaster is the greatest machine ever, but you got to give it some time for the operator. Human error plays in.
Sure.
It's slow.
Unlike
But
the
it's
NFL,
good. We
there
love
is
the
no such thing
TriCaster,
as
but-
human error anymore.
in the NFL?
Sure. No, because if they ever get
Unless
a call,
you're a ref
just go to
and
the
you're
stupid
watching
videotape.
Calvin Johnson grab a touchdown in week
Referees
1.
don't actually earn any money anymore.
Yeah.
They
All
do
right,
this,
what
they
do,
do exercises.
what do we
where
got?
they do
Who's
this,
our first
pull the
player
thing
we're
over
going to
there.
do this week?
All right, I actually got from Mayor's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Should they start Steven Jackson, Javad Best, or Matt Forte?
Duh.
Wow. This is a little
By the
curveball.
way,
Have
so-
all three of
so
these
here's the deal.
players? What are they, an
Yeah,
18 league?
We've been talking about this, and I'm not Mike, so hopefully it picks me up. That maybe we do another segment that's like this or that, because a lot of people are going, should I start this guy or that guy?
Yeah.
So this may be a secondary segment that will start
Sure.
next week, but you can talk about it
Sure.
now.
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
excited for whatever title card Corey comes up with.
I know.
If
It's
we
whatever
just make
we
Corey
end up
do
calling
8 more
it.
title
It'll be
cards,
some type
that'd
of
be great.
like a dolphin, like going through water.
That
in
would
the
be
sunset,
awesome.
And
With the
Dolphin,
making
yeah.
dolphin sounds?
Okay, so
Making
go ahead.
dolphin.
It's just going to be a clip
so,
from
I'm
Free
sorry,
Willy.
Colin. Can you name those three again? It's Forte, Best, and
Steven
Can we get who
Jackson.
they're
Steven
playing? Can we
Jackson.
get who they're playing?
Sure, I can get that
The
for you.
Rams are playing, we know the Rams are
Well,
playing.
the Rams are playing the Redskins.
Redskins,
The
right.
Bears are playing Green Bay, and the Lions are playing Minnesota. So actually, NFC North is doing divisional games this weekend.
yeah.
Oh, wasn't that just
I mean, that
lovely?
makes
We
it.
should have
It's
a
a
party.
very tough. You know, Forte, I would say maybe your safest choice.
It's just amazing how
Best-
Forte gets out of the backfield and is
Yeah.
catching all these balls. It's like,
I sat Javad Best last week. I
Yeah.
learned my lesson. I will
yeah.
never sit him again.
And then
I sat next to you while
as
you
a
were
crippled
lamenting.
Yes.
Minnesota Vikings fan, I will say the one thing they have done well is they're still playing pretty good against the run. They
They are.
played well against the run in Miami last week.
There.
At the end of the day, I'm sorry. At the end of the day, I just think, to me, it's Best. I mean, if you have to choose between the three, then you go with Javad Best. The Packers' defense right now is playing fantastic football. They're going to be at home, I think, for this game, and I just think Best he's just ride that train, man. 2 touchdowns week 1, 2 touchdowns week 2.
He gets
I mean,
look.
yeah.
If they get in the red
Plus all
zone,
those
he's getting
receiving
the
yards.
carries.
It's ridiculous.
And the nice thing against Minnesota is
3 touchdowns.
Sean Hill doesn't have
Total.
the arm that Stafford has, so he does a lot of short passes. That's why Scheffler's getting a lot more passes. That's why Best had a huge receiving game, had a good running game, but a huge receiving game
With a
last week.
touchdown. He's
With a
got 5
touchdown
total on the year.
Yeah. So and he's going to get all those red zone carries. You know, unless the Lions get shut out, which isn't completely out of the question, he's going to get another touchdown
You
this
can
week.
start
at least
both
one.
of them. Do what you can.
Yeah.
Get them both in the lineup.
I would-
and
I
Best
would
caught
say
a lot.
Best.
I mean, Best caught a lot of balls last
Yeah.
week too. I would agree. Even though I hate to choose against my own team, I think it would go Best, Forte.
Me
Jackson.
too. I mean, if this is like a best 2 out of the 3, then I think you got your answer.
Yeah.
I would probably go Jackson.
Out
over
of the
Forte.
3?
Over 14.
Not even worth the discussion. Let's
Yeah.
move on.
All right, what's next?
All right.
He's on that one. I'm going to bet him a 12-pack of PBR.
I mean,
That's
Since
easy.
we're still on the NFC North, El Samage is wondering, should he start Aroshimadu? I think I said that right.
It's not even a name.
It
Aromatherapy
is.
Aroma
Yeah,
is
aromatherapy.
not high
Aromatherapy.
on my list.
Yeah,
I'm an acupuncture guy, so I'd say no.
yeah, I'd say no. I mean, it would depend on who you got. You know, I mean, if he's the best you got, obviously that's who you go with. But he's maybe. I mean, he's a number 3 on the Bears.
Yeah, I'd say he's
You know?
he's a number 3, like maybe a flex guy if you need him.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go out of the way. Especially, I mean, let's face it, the Packers are playing great defense.
Yeah,
And
they really
I
are.
think you've got to, unless your
Clay
team
Matthews.
is really
Clay
really,
Matthews, and they're
sick.
just very
6
opportunistic.
sacks
I
in
mean,
2
they have-
games.
It's unbelievable.
unless your
It's
team
amazing.
is just really thin, you've got to have a better
And
option
again,
on bench.
the
So I'm going to say stash.
Are we stash? I thought we were.
I think we still have a format
Okay,
here.
that's where you go. Stash. What are you gonna say?
Trash.
Yeah, I say trash too. And one more thing about that Packers D, the style they play is they blitz your quarterback, so that leads to dump off passes to Forte. And
Overall,
the
you're
tight end.
giving it a trash?
It's going to be a
You're going to
trash.
side
Trash.
with Marty.
Yep, trash.
I mean, with sorry. With
We
Marty.
never
Never.
side with Marty.
We
Marty,
never
does
saw
Marty
it.
wait? Does Marty have anything? What does Marty say? He's here. He's in the chat room.
He says trash.
Marty says
Marty
trash.
says trash.
Marty.
That's 3-1.
Marty.
By the way, folks, JJ hates that we make him go first because he knows we're going to disagree with him. Because that's why
I'll
we're here.
take this one first.
Yeah,
Okay,
let's
I'll
get
field
down
this
the other
next
way.
one. Here
All
we
right,
go.
we'll go the other way. Well, we'll
Here we
start with Mark and then go to me. So,
All right.
All right, go ahead.
All right, El Samage also wants to know, this is a comparison one,
Oh,
no Sean Marino or Frank Gore?
oh gosh.
that's easy.
No brainer. Frank
No Sean Marino.
Gore. Frank Gorino. Frank Gore.
Yeah.
The
there's
guy's
no-
a beast.
Yeah.
Okay, he has legs the size of this room.
Yeah.
And he's just a monster. He's got great hands. I mean, Frank Gore did it all last week. Are we
I
really
mean,
asking this?
I love the athleticism of No Sean, and I love watching him jump over people.
Sure.
But
Frank
Gore
he's
is
gonna
just
pull a groin.
yeah. Frank Gore is just solid.
And who are the Broncos playing? Aren't they playing the Seahawks? Or am I wrong about that?
Colts.
Colts.
Did I miss an incredible performance?
That's a
by No
good
Sean
point.
Marino?
They're playing the Colts. The Colts have arguably the worst run defense I've ever seen.
Marty is running for Gore. He is full on
I mean,
Gore.
it's Gore,
I like
hands
Gore,
down.
but Marino's going to have a good game too. I
but
mean,
if you're
Gore's a better
starting
running
one
back.
over the
Just
other,
have trouble playing matchups when you're dealing with a top 10 pick
Yeah.
in the draft.
Yeah.
He's a top 10 pick. You play him.
Yeah.
Period.
What about Sean Green? He was a top 10 pick in a lot of leagues.
Sean Green was a top 10 pick in my league, and I'm going to go shoot myself after this for Adam reminding me of how bad he is.
All right, what's next?
All right, Chaz-tastic would like to know, Jimmy Clausen, where does he stand? Backup, starter?
He stands
Oh,
under
he's
center.
starting this week.
He stands
But
under
on your
center.
league.
That's all we
on
know
your, in
at
your
this
league,
point.
he's a stash.
He's a
He's
stash.
not ready to.
And a
Don't
keeper
drop
league.
him if you have him.
Yeah.
But he's not ready to start. But he's a guy I think you hang on to. He's a long-term project.
Long-term meaning a couple of years from now, right? I mean, what long-term meaning
No.
week 15?
I mean, a couple weeks.
I don't
He's
think
going to
he's
be a good number 2 guy. He's going to be a guy
Yes.
I think that after he gets a couple weeks
So,
in,
okay.
you can
Smash,
put him
dash,
in
and
as your
draft him.
backup. I'm saying stash.
No, he's trash.
I'd say redraft, he's trash. Keeper league, he's a stash. Trash.
What if it's
Mart-
Keeper League?
If it's keeper league, I'd stash him.
Marty is saying stash. He has Steve Smith.
Thank you, Marty.
Yes, 'cause he has
Marty,
Steve
you know
Smith.
what I'm talking about.
I have the other Steve Smith.
That's
Marty and
right.
I, another battle. Another 12er. No.
Steven Jackson all the way, Marty.
He
Steven
has
Jackson all
Steve
the
Smith
way.
until he gets injured eventually, which will happen.
Which will
like
happen.
it does every year.
all right, next.
All right, what's next?
Any of the Cowboys running backs, should you start them with the way their O-line's been?
No.
Well,
No, trash,
No.
trash.
absolutely not.
No.
They're all trash. In fact,
yeah.
one of them didn't even make my next segment. So that shows you how trashy he is.
Yeah, it's that team is in horrible shape, and unless your name is Miles Austin, or Jason Witten, who's not looking great, but that's not
No.
really his fault.
No.
That's more Romo.
Yeah.
That team's
Better
running
than
back
Tony G?
situation
Yeah.
is ugly.
Ugly.
Yeah,
Ugly. Trash all around.
trash.
Now, next one, this is also one that's hurting me right now.
Oh, Colin.
We become Colin's advisor.
We're like his fantasy
On the
football
couch.
therapist.
I know,
thing,
I know.
Colin.
Well, I haven't got to vent as much as I would like to right now. So, Crabtree, Michael Crabtree, what the hell is wrong with that guy?
It's not Michael Crabtree. It's Alex Smith. That passing game. Alex Smith is real good at getting the ball to the tight end. He's not good at getting the ball to his wide receivers. That's why Vernon Davis is good, and the wide receivers there have been bad for years now.
It was sickening to me to be with some fellow 49er fans on Monday night, hearing them, realistically, really and truly beg for David Carr to enter the game.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was amazing to me. So I agree. Colin, I'm sorry. I am sorry, Colin Wilkie. I'm sorry.
And we brought this
Michael
up earlier.
Crabtree is a talent.
You and I were talking about this earlier. Every ESPN, all these other stations, they're talking about how good Alex Smith looked. That's not why they were in that game.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Are they
That
trying
Frank
to?
Gore was why they almost won
Are
that
they
game.
saying that because they're trying to
I don't know.
I don't know. It's
They
that
want
whole
the next Steve Young so
Vernon
bad
Davis
they
is
can
a
taste
superstar,
it.
so
Yeah.
they try to sort of peripherally. I don't even get it. Like Alex Smith, no, you're bad right now.
But I do feel
Get
like
better.
Michael Crabtree, I drafted him as well. I'm not going to trash him. I'm not starting him.
No, don't trash him. No. He's definitely a stash, and in certain situations, he's even a start, depending on the matchup. I would say he's a stash. Would you guys agree?
He's a stash.
He's a
stash
stash.
because he's such a
definitely
talent.
It's not, and again, it's not his fault. Your player isn't bad. He's got a quarterback that fails getting the ball to wide receivers.
I didn't want to get angry there, JJ.
Colin,
I'm
what else
sorry.
we
It's
got?
all right.
All right. El
Still back to
Samage is wondering, Mohamed Massaquoi,
Eee.
Cleveland Brown, Massaquoi.
Or a college player?
Close, Cleveland Browns. It's almost the same thing.
Yeah.
They're a
So
Division II team, aren't they?
I mean, they don't even.
I believe they're playing James Madison this weekend.
Well, how's
high
he
school
gonna?
in Brooklyn.
This one's for Marty. How's he going to get anything with Peyton Hillis on the team, getting all the scores? I'm kidding. He's not that great.
Maybe the reason why I'm not successful is because I don't pay attention to guys like Mohamed Massaquoi, but right now he's trash to me.
He's trash to me too. Again, not his fault. I mean, number one, his starting quarterback, Jake Delhomme, who's terrible, is down, and now he's got Seneca Wallace, who's even more terrible. Yeah, it's a bad situation, so I'm going to go trash.
Yeah, I would say trash. I'm pretty sure if you trash him this week, you will be able to pick him back up next week.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Trash.
So yeah, he's a guy just trash, and then pick him back up if you still like him after the week.
Marty is saying Hillis is doing the work.
Of course he is.
Hillis, the poor man's Mike Allstott.
That's
Should put up the All Marty team.
And Kuhn, the poor man's Peyton Hillis.
Add somebody to the All Marty team right behind here.
All right, we got any more?
Was that a trash?
Trash.
That was trash.
That was trash.
Mercedes Lewis, tight end for the Jaguars, going up against Philly.
Wow.
Well, Mercedes Lewis, this is our friend Claire's. This is
Yeah.
her boy.
Yeah.
She likes him.
This is her boy, Mercedes Lewis.
Look, he got a couple of touchdowns in that first game. It's kind of padded his stats a lot. I don't think he's not going to get touchdowns like that again. However, Gerard's doing a good job getting him the ball. If you're hurting at tight end, he's as decent as anybody else out there who's not named Aaron Hernandez. That's available on your waiver wire.
I am very concerned about the Jaguars' offense in general. And we're going to get to this in a few minutes, but the running game is stagnant right now. They're stacking the box. Gerard not looking good in week 2. What? One of the many 4 interception guys last week. David Gerard, tough game last week, and who knows if these guys are going to get it back. So I'm really concerned about starting anybody on that team right now. I don't know about you, JJ.
I think there's not a lot of tight ends really doing well this year. There's no, it's a weak. It's always been a somewhat weak position. I think it's even weaker this year. Once you get past your big tight ends, your Vishantichenko, your Gates, even Gonzalez,
You're Aaron Hernandez.
your Aaron Hernandez.
Then what a god Aaron Hernandez is.
You're really kind of rolling the dice.
There he is.
Yeah.
Great.
You just love that prison tattoo look he's got going.
Buried in Brady's neck in that picture. All
But
right.
you're kind of rolling the dice anyways. And Mercedes Lewis, he could have a big game. He could, if you don't have a big tight end, then maybe he's worth a shot.
That's a great point.
I would say
It's a great
start.
point. You got. Okay.
Start, well, because I'm assuming if you're asking this, you don't have Vishantichenko. You don't have.
Yeah,
You're
hurting.
saying, hey, I've got one
You
of
got like Owen
the,
Daniels or
these-
somebody
Yeah,
who's
Owen
hurt.
Daniels.
Sure.
So you know what? Start him.
Yeah, start him.
He's
All right.
going to do better
JJ,
than.
I'm going to go with you on
Yeah.
this one.
All right.
And I'm not going to bet any beer though.
I'm going to say he's a stash, but that'll make him a smash between you two. So we'll call that one our first
Yeah.
smash.
I'll
Go ahead,
smash
start
that.
him. Yeah.
Smash that.
Actually, Marty is wondering about Dustin Keller if we're on the subject of tight ends.
I can't imagine Dustin Keller's not owned a lot.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he's out there. He's definitely he's right
availability
there.
is-
He's very similar to Mercedes Lewis. He's
You
that
can get
kind of
him.
yeah.
You can
He's
get
he's the kind of guy that's. I mean, he's going to have games like last week, and then he's going to disappear on you. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
But that's true of most tight ends after you get past that elite group.
Yeah.
So it's,
And Dustin Keller, but Dustin Keller's a little better known. Plays,
Sure.
And so he's probably not really available, but yeah, he's one of those guys. He's in that next tier of like, could have a great game, could have a bad game. You just
yeah. I personally, for me, he's a stash. I don't know about you guys. Depending on the matchup, you could start him in certain areas. Is he a smash? No, he's been around the league for a long time. We know what this guy is.
Yeah.
He's not any different than he was last year, and that's not bad. He does exactly what the Jets need him to do, but they're not a tight end offense. They don't go to the tight end a lot. They did last week, but I think that was a matchup thing.
I'm going to go with you on this one, Adam. Wow, you guys are really good influences on me.
I'm gonna go with stash as well.
It's so easy to talk him into anything. It's
It really
awesome.
is.
So that's a stash.
All right, and to wrap this up, last one, Malcolm Floyd.
Well,
San Diego is going to be going up against Seattle this weekend.
Well, Seattle has surprisingly a really good run defense. They shut Frank Gore down, and they didn't get run on that bad last week either.
Right.
Now their passing D is suspect, so that makes me think that he
Trufant,
might
big
be.
interception for a touchdown in week 1.
That's
That guy
true.
can still play.
That's
He's got
true.
a lot of experience. He might very well be matched
Yeah.
up against the Malcolm Floyd.
That's true.
So
Or he might be up
I don't know
against-
enough about this one to give that strong an opinion, but I might stash him, I guess.
I'm like torn. He's in the strash category.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
me.
Yes.
He's in the strash. Like,
so strash worthy.
He's a strash.
I would trash him if you need a roster spot for somebody else, and if you don't need a roster spot, then I would stash him. So I guess I would go with stash.
I would say this week I would start him. He's a smash, but for the season he's a stash. So stash.
That's a stash.
More of a mustache.
Yeah, Stash-ish. Stashowitz.
All right. And does that tie us up, or we got one more?
We just got one come in on the streaming. Adam Hayden Music wants to know what your opinion on Beanie Wells is.
Beanie Wells has obviously not played this year so far. Hightower looked great last week.
But he looked terrible the week before.
Yeah, I think that was more of a matchup thing. It's still Wells' job to lose, but he's got to get healthy. From what I hear, they're saying he's questionable.
No, I believe
not going to start.
I think they're saying he is going to practice tomorrow, and that he is going to start.
Yeah. So you know what? Stupid for football at Stupid for Football. I will be tweeting that right before the game. I'll let you know if he's starting. If he is starting, who are they playing? Who's Arizona playing this week?
Arizona is playing. No, it's Oakland.
Oakland. Okay. Let me tell you this: if Beanie Wells is starting, then you start him this week against Oakland because they're not very good against the run. They're not very good against anything.
And so. I have him sitting on my bench with my horrible running back core, waiting for him to get in the game.
I'll tweet that before this weekend's games.
If he's a smash if he's going to play.
I would like to introduce a little segment here at the end from my good friend Jabber here. He's going to take you on a little trip on a special little fantasy segment. Go for it.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, in my efforts to bring you every week a tidy little package of wholesome fantasy football goodness, I present to you today the segment I like to call Keeping Up with the Joneses. Now, as you know, one is thought to be a potential star in a potentially suitable system, but for now will remain in the shadows of another top 10 pick. One has become a must-have top 5 fantasy pick, and one was supposed to be over the hill, even though he came off a 1,400-yard season and was backing up what many consider to be a stud in a young guy named Jamal Charles. And of course, I'm talking about Jacoby Jones, Maurice Jones-Drew, and Thomas Jones in what I like to call Keeping Up with the Joneses. Now, Jacoby Jones has a lot of potential here, right?
He does. He's a lot.
Week 1, 2 catches, 29 yards. Week 2, 6 catches, 53 yards, and a touchdown. Yeah. How do you like this guy, fellas?
I like him. I like him a lot. I think Kevin Walter had a good game too, but that's a situation where you have like your 2A and your 2B in your wide receiver. Obviously, Andre Johnson's the man.
Sure.
After him, it's one of those
Kevin Walter's been around for a while, and we've seen
a little while, right? I mean, how many years in the league? Do we maybe have a stat on that?
I think it's about 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, he's been around, and he pops up on these games with a 100-yard game. Yeah. He's a solid guy, but I think definitely Jacoby Jones has more upside. Had a good solid rookie year last year, and has the potential to really establish himself as a number 2. I think Kevin Walter was more of a matchup thing than Jones,
and especially why Owen Daniels is out. It seems not that he's out. Owen Daniels is not playing very well. Still a little tender on that injury, and so Jacoby Jones is getting what he would usually get. So it looks like until Daniels is back, Jones is a safe start in most situations, and definitely with that kind of young talent, you stash him even when he's not putting up numbers.
I would agree with most of that. I think my concern is that I actually think Kevin Walter is a really solid number 2. So I think there's a strong possibility that he holds on to that a little bit longer, and it's kind of like what I was talking about with Ryan Matthews, I believe, before. Just sort of being in the right situation so that if you are a rookie and you do have that upside, that you're really going to sort of make that burst over those first few weeks and become the guy. Not really sure that's the case yet because Kevin Walter is a player, and he had a really great game last week, so we'll see. Number 2, I'm talking about Maurice Jones-Drew. Now, this guy has been on the rise for the last few years. Of course, the big commercial a couple years ago, he was winning leagues for people single-handedly off the waiver wire week 9 or 10, right? Thing with Maurice Jones-Drew is week 1, 23 carries, 98 yards, respectable, no touchdowns. Week 2, 12 carries for 31 yards. He's playing the Eagles this week, fellas. The Eagles gave up 3 touchdowns to Javid Best last week. 2 rushing, 1 receiving. What is the deal with Maurice Jones-Drew, and should people be worried about him?
I think he's going to rack it up this week. The Eagles have allowed a lot of offense both games. Their defense does not. You think Eagles and you think defense because of the last decade.
Yeah,
but this year it doesn't seem to be the case. And I think Jones-Drew is going to tear it up.
They've got more of a New Orleans style of D now. How New Orleans was last year. They didn't shut you down. They looked for the opportunity, so they let you score because their offense could put up points. A lot like Philly's starting to look right now. But Maurice Jones-Drew is still one of the best running backs in the NFL. This is coming from a USC fan, so you know it's true because he played for UCLA, so I hated that little... We used to call him the magical midget because he's tiny with these huge thighs. Guy's incredible. Definitely start him every week. I know he's faltered, but again, I think that has more to do with the Jaguars' offense on the whole and not him as a player.
Sure. Kind of goes back to the old theory. It's a top 10 guy. He's your guy. You got
you got to keep going.
First round pick. My third one is Sir Thomas Jones. Now, I would like to fold Sir Thomas Jones, as I call him,
When was he knighted?
into a segment that we ran last week, where we honored Tony Gonzalez for catching his 1,000th pass, and we put Tony Gonzalez in sort of this all-fantasy Hall of Fame. Let me frame Thomas Jones' career for you for a moment. Tony Dorsett is considered one of the top 100 players of all time. NFL's running this special right now. Okay, Tony Dorsett started his career with 5 straight 1,000-yard rushing seasons. Thomas Jones had 5 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons in his second 5 seasons. Thomas Jones has been nothing but a fantasy stud the last several years, and he stands to break the 10,000-yard career mark this year, which I think he'll do. He needs about 661 yards, and he has displaced Jamal Charles as the starter in Kansas City. Now, a lot of people say, hold on to Charles. Jones is going to go down. He's old. What do you guys think?
You know, it seems like that's what Thomas Jones does. He's never supposed to be the guy. And then, you know, like the first couple years wasn't given, and as soon as someone goes down and he gets the opportunity, he becomes the man. And then they're like, well, he's too old and he's used up, and teams get rid of him. And then he goes somewhere else and he does the same thing.
He did it to Leon Washington at the Jets.
And
he
before
did it before that in Chicago with Cedric Benson,
with
who's
Cedric
now
Benson.
great again. But Thomas Jones stole Cedric Benson's starting gig in Chicago. Cedric Benson, huge, broke all the NCAA records. He's supposed to be the next
great
guy.
And then Thomas Jones, I'll quietly get the job done.
And get
every
like
time.
another 1,400 yards.
If Thomas Jones breaks 1,000 yards and thus breaks the 10,000-yard mark and goes for his 6th consecutive 1,000-yard season, gentlemen, is he an NFL Hall of Famer?
Wow, I think he definitely enters the discussion.
I don't think it happens, and here's why. It's sad. He's never gotten any respect from his teams or from the NFL. He always gets thrown out, just like what happened this year. You know, the Jets brought in LT and got rid of Thomas Jones, which was interesting to me. I don't think it's a failed idea, but Thomas Jones looked great last year behind that line, and I think he made with his style of play
1,400 yards.
Yeah, and with his style of play, he made Sean Green better. LT doesn't help Sean Green because he's a totally different kind of back. So, you know, this guy doesn't get any respect.
Six straight 1,000-yard, you know, in over 12, you know, let's say he goes over 1,200 again. So six straight years of over 1,200 yards.
Amazing.
Over 10,000 career.
Fantastic. Well,
keeping up with the Joneses.
We shall see.
I'm excited for your next
Thank you for keeping up with the Joneses. See you next week.
All right. See you next week. Remember to follow us on Twitter at Stupid4Football. I will be getting out those last-minute tweets right before every game starts.
And it's a great place to go.
Ask me. You know?
Yeah, it's a great place to go. I personally stay with his tweets because he somehow is able to monitor every sporting agency in the world and condense down that information.
Can I just say this?
Well, I'm still like jumping website to website in ESPN, CBS, Fox.
I tweeted the Reggie Bush injury 45 seconds after ESPN did. And they've got like 40 guys in a stat room figuring it out for him. I'm very proud of that.
Other shows in Streaming Garage?
Yes.
Stupid for Movies tonight?
Oh, tonight, Stupid for Movies. 8 p.m.
Thursdays.
Pacific time, Thursdays, every Thursday night.
Wednesdays.
Stupid for Movies. Wednesdays, we've got Strip Down Live with Kurt Smith from Tears for Fears.
And starting Monday.
Starting Monday, Stupid for Dexter. Do we have anything?
Yeah, we'll show that on the...
Yeah, watch Stupid for Movies tonight. We're going to give you a real cool little preview of it. Or I'll go to YouTube and look up Stupid for Dexter. You'll dig it. I love that show. I think it's killer.
Hey.
You're not the only one with the puns. See you later, guys.